Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Hope you're doing well. So, hell of a week last week, huh? Today we are going to break down the story that's gripping the nation, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I actually talked about it for 35 minutes on the Sunday Patreon show that I do last Sunday. That was just a couple days after it happened. And then I was planning to do this breakdown here on the main channel early this week, like Monday or Tuesday. Ended up coming down with the worst cold that I've had in years. Just miserable, but I'm actually happy that it worked out that way because now here we are, more than a week later, a lot more has come out. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to start when the bullet was fired and talk about everything that I've been able to come across, and I've been glued up until this morning. Oh yeah, there's a link in the description of this video to my Patreon if you want to get in on the Sunday Patreon show. But without further ado, let's get into it. So Charlie Kirk was on one of his college debate event tours that he does. I'm pretty sure this was the first stop of the tour at a university in Utah. Most of the people in the audience were college age. Vast majority were college age kids. Makes sense. And when the shot rang out, I happened to accidentally watch the close-up video of the bullet hitting Charlie in the neck probably 25 times. I don't know why. I just kept watching it. I wouldn't recommend it, though. It's extremely horrible, but the shot rings out, hits Charlie right in the neck. His security guard kind of grabs him, and Charlie falls off the chair. A vast majority, when the shot rang out, instinctively hit the pavement, went down, except one guy towards the front, 71-year-old George Zinn. So he's a much different age group than pretty much everybody there. So everybody instinctively hits the deck except for 71-year-old George Zinn. He starts waving his arms and ranting and raving like a lunatic saying, "I shot him, now shoot me." Put yourself in the shoes of a campus police officer that's working the event, or maybe they had city police officers there or as a combination. But imagine you're a police officer working the political event thinking, man, it's pretty hot out here. Wonder what I'm going to eat for lunch when this is over. And then all of a sudden, the gunshot rings out. Charlie Kirk gets hit right in the neck. It looks really, really bad. Pretty much everybody in the crowd hits the deck except for this weird old guy that starts waving his arms and yelling, "I shot him, shoot me." It's understandable in the chaos and pandemonium that they were like, all right, well, detain that guy. What the hell is going on? So they detain George Zinn, put his arms behind his back, and they're walking him out. There's multiple videos of them walking George Zinn out, and George Zinn is yelling, "Shoot me, shoot me." I'm not proud of it, but I've watched a lot of unedited body cam footage and all the interrogations, and it's not totally uncommon for when someone gets caught doing something and they're embarrassed they got caught and they're facing the consequences of getting caught doing whatever they were doing. It's not uncommon for the person to get into a despair mood where you have this attitude of just fucking shoot me, just shoot me. I'm thinking about the To Catch a Predator dude that grabbed the pen off the interrogation table and half-heartedly tried to stab himself in the neck. He got into the just shoot me, but there's a number of them that I've seen. Like I said, it's not totally uncommon. So if you were walking George Zinn out, everybody's running. You think there's probably an active shooter. This old guy is screaming like a lunatic. You have him detained. You're thinking, what the hell is going on? And then he's yelling, "Shoot me, shoot me." If I was one of the detaining police officers, I would think, well, this guy's guilty of something. Why would you say that if you weren't guilty? So they're walking him to the police car, and then his pants fall down. So he's doing the steps that you take when your pants are down. Then they get him to the police car, kneel him down. He's saying, "I have the right to remain silent. I have the right to remain silent." And they put him in the police car and bring him down to the police station. They interrogate him and look over all the information that they have and deem him, he didn't have anything to do with it. But since then, he's been charged with obstruction for what seems like trying to create a diversion for the shooter. And also since then, they found he was in the possession of child porn. So he's been charged for that. Of course, on the internet, everybody was saying this guy is definitely a diversion. This is multiple people working together. So I dug as far down on this guy as I could, and it seems like what I found was he goes to every political rally, no matter which side of the aisle. He's always there. He's handing out these nonsense flyers that nobody reads. He claimed to witness 9/11, and he has this appearance at the Charlie Kirk thing. It seems to me he's just an insane person and is addicted to the political scene. He's always there. He's yelling. He's handing out his flyers. He had child porn. So there we have George Zinn, 71 years old. So if you were following the story, like right when it happened, you would have seen that someone is detained. That was George Zinn. And if a short time later, they would say 2 people are detained. So the second person, as everybody's running in all directions, thinking it's an active shooter, not knowing what's going on, there's someone, they come up on someone in the parking lot that's pacing back and forth like a weirdo, saying something over and over again like, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. And you could see, understandably, they were like, you know what, take that guy in too. What is going on? So just like George Zinn, they take that person in, and after talking to him and going over everything, deemed that he had nothing to do with it either. So now he's released. Shortly after that, they reported that they found a rifle that they think was used in the assassination in a nearby forest, wrapped in a towel. There's multiple videos from people in the audience that turned and caught somebody in dark clothing running on a roof. There's really grainy video. It's like the video of all the Bigfoot sightings, a real grainy video of someone in dark clothing jumping off a roof and scampering off. And then there's some of who they think is the same person in a neighborhood on doorbell cams walking around. Okay, so there's that. Shortly, I don't know if it was a day later or less than that, or maybe it was 2 days, but very shortly after that, law enforcement came out and said, we have good pictures of who we think was the assassin. We're going to try to figure out who they are with facial recognition technology without releasing them to the public first. And if we can't figure out who he is, then we're going to release the images to the public. Well, they must have not been able to, because very shortly after that, the pictures of Tyler Robinson, who's been arrested since then, has been arrested and charged. Pictures of Tyler Robinson were released, showing up to the campus and leaving the campus. The story goes the first person in Tyler Robinson's life to recognize the pictures first was his mom. She said, oh my God, that looks like my son Tyler. She, the story goes, went to her husband, Tyler's dad, and said, this looks like Tyler. No, the dad agreed. Oh my gosh. And I think if I'm something like Tyler's dad had worked in law enforcement in some capacity, he made a call to someone, one of his friends in law enforcement, either a sheriff or someone that worked in the sheriff's office. And that friend ended up helping the family convince Tyler Robinson to turn himself in. The info I have on that is, at first, Tyler Robinson didn't want to turn himself in. The law enforcement friend with his parents were able to convince him to. Tyler expressed fear that the SWAT team was going to do a big dramatic raid of their house and possibly shoot him, Tyler. And part of his agreement to turn himself in is with the law enforcement is he said he didn't want to be roughed up like a real rough arrest. He wanted it to be soft and gentle. And so law enforcement agreed, yeah, we'll be real gentle with you, pal. And so he agreed, okay, I'm turning myself in. It was 2.5 hours from when he agreed to, from when they actually brought him in. And his mood during that 2.5 hours was described as quiet and somber. And they drove him down to the police station, or I don't know, sheriff's office, wherever it was. They treated him gently. And he was officially in custody and then shortly after got charged. So as soon as all that came out, the family's social media was dissected in great detail, as always happens when something like this. And the mom's social media had a lot of pictures of them as a family shooting guns. You could tell this was a family that hunted, or the big hobby was target practice. There's a picture of 12-year-old Tyler Robinson holding a rifle. Looks like maybe a BB gun or a pellet gun. But before they knew who it was and it was coming out, I was thinking for somebody to nail that shot, they're calling it 200 yards away, one shot right to the neck. I was thinking it has to be a family where the person grew up hunting or target practice shooting, because it's not easy even to procure a rifle that's ready to even make that shot. You'd have to have a rifle and a scope and sight it. If you just go down and buy a rifle at the pawn shop, like I'm going to do it, and you buy this rifle, the chance of with having a new rifle and not having it professionally sighted and not having the experience growing up around rifles, the chances that someone makes that shot, in my opinion, someone disagreed with me with this opinion on my Patreon episode on it, but I think the chances you make that shot are very low. So before Tyler, it came out that it was Tyler and he'd been arrested and stuff, I was thinking it's got to be a family. If it was a young kid, it's got to be somebody that grew up hunting or doing target practice with their family. And if it wasn't a kid, it's got to be someone that was either trained for law enforcement or military or have somebody with a bunch of experience. And then sure enough, it comes out that they're a big shooting gun family. I don't know if they hunted, but I would assume they did. Apparently, the rifle that Tyler used was a gift from his grandfather, so he had the rifle. And there's a big discussion of like, so if it was this conservative family in Utah, then why would the kid want to shoot Charlie Kirk? That's his whole thing, right? He's a conservative. So why would a conservative family produce this kid that would want to do that? And Tyler's grandmother had this quote where she was like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. Our whole family is conservative. But I'm thinking it happens all the time. And it made me think of my mom's brother's family, my uncle. They were devout Mormons living in Utah, pretty much just like this. Couldn't have taken their Mormon religion more seriously. My uncle was moving up the ranks on his way to becoming a Mormon bishop. I'm talking they were into it. And then their beloved son, my cousin, comes out, is gay. They are talking to the church about it. The church gives them some insane ultimatum, like you can either do this, or you can just never see your kid again. And they were like, yeah, well, we're not doing any of that. We're just leaving the church, and we're still going to hang out with our son. So sorry, we're out of here. And so it happens all the time that a kid is brought up in a religious conservative family, and they end up being gay or a million different reasons, and they either rebel and go the opposite route politically. And so it made sense to me that, one thing I want to say first, another video on his mom's Facebook was Tyler reading a letter that he got saying he got a scholarship. So his mom is proudly recording her son reading his scholarship letter, and she posted it on social media. But this is way before it came out that he had a boyfriend that he lived with, and the boyfriend was possibly in the process of transitioning. And the neighbor said, I've seen them with his boyfriend holding hands and kissing. This is way before that all came out. But I saw that video of him reading the scholarship letter, and my gaydar went off. I'm like, and that's why it reminded me a lot of my uncle's family. It's like devout Mormons. The son realizes, or is ready to come out because he's gay, and then goes the other direction politically. Oh, yeah. I've been texting with my uncle about this. This might be exclusive TCL information, but he was saying they still live in Utah, even though they're not Mormon anymore. But he lives 2 miles from the Robinson family, and he said they're uber Mormon, quote, uber Mormon. So very devout. So it's very similar, except my cousin didn't, assassinate somebody. Okay, so since then, Tyler Robinson has been charged, has appeared once in one of those suicide vests. They're going for the death penalty. He didn't have too much emotion or anything in the first court appearance. His neighbor, like I said a few minutes ago, did an interview where he said, yeah, I saw him with his partner. They live together. I've seen them holding hands. I've seen them kissing. And the other, a little bit strange information, and I think a couple people have said this recently, like in the past couple weeks, there has been a lot of car traffic around the house with out-of-state license plates. So whatever that means. But all of that, to me, checks out. Grew up in a conservative family, grew up shooting guns, had a gun, knew how to shoot it, realized he was gay, went the other direction politically, got himself radicalized online to the point where he thought Charlie Kirk should be killed for having his political view, had the skills to do it, and did it, and has been arrested and charged. So there's that. Since the beginning of this story, there's been two theories on what happened. One of them is the one I just described, where Tyler Robinson decided that Charlie was espousing hate, or I can't remember exactly what he said, and then, decided he deserves to die because of that. But then the different theory, where that came from, is pretty much right after Charlie was assassinated. A tweet from around a month before went viral. A guy tweeted, I talked to somebody close to Charlie Kirk, and he was afraid that Israel was going to kill him because apparently from the very beginning, Charlie has taken big Zionist donor money into Turning Point USA, his political corporation or whatever movement company that he calls it. So he's taken big time Zionist donor money, and in return for that money, he has pretty much always stayed on the approved Israel message and pretty much never criticized Israel. Like Charlie's critics on the left are that he's a hateful bigot, and his critics on the right are that he is a shill for Israel, that he's obviously paid off. Just the approved message, day after day, year after year, kind of grates on people. And so he was criticized heavily for that from people on the right. And so this tweet from a month ago that I don't think got really much attention when it was first tweeted, you could see all of a sudden it goes viral, like, holy crap. And people close to Charlie, multiple people close, Max Blumenthal put it all together in a recent article on the Gray Zone, have come out and basically said recently Charlie Kirk has gone from the way he used to look at the whole Israel situation to all of a sudden lightly criticizing them. In a couple recent interviews that have since gone viral, he was talking to Megyn Kelly, and he's talking about, these donors, they start, now that I'm lightly criticizing them, they're saying, oh, so I guess you're not with us. And he's going, what does with us mean? And I think 2 days before he was assassinated, his last interview, he did one with Ben Shapiro, and in that interview, he's saying, we challenged what the media was telling us on COVID, and we challenged when the media was telling us with this. I think maybe it's time we start challenging what the media is telling us about Israel. And Ben Shapiro's eyebrows go up, and you can tell Ben Shapiro is going, what are you talking about? This is not the direction I think we should be going with this. And so there's those two. So he essentially went from never criticizing Israel to lightly criticizing Israel. And then the friend that Max Blumenthal interviewed for the Gray Zone article said recently, in that whole, like him going from only the approved message and no criticism to light criticism, Benjamin Netanyahu offered to donate $150 million to Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's political movement. And apparently Charlie Kirk turned it down and also invited him, you know what, come to Israel, come do a trip on Israel, which Charlie has done in the past, and he turned that down too. So all of that, plus George Zinn, remember the weirdo 71-year-old that was ranting and raving like a lunatic to create what seems like a diversion? He's also Jewish. So all of that, you could see now it's getting heated online. There's a whole group of people that think Israel assassinated Charlie Kirk because he went against his big donors that were paying him to, not criticize Israel. And you have all of that, him turning down the money and everything, and it must be the diversion, all of that. The theory is that Israel took out Charlie before he could go full criticism and influence his huge young audience, because he was one of the only ones kind of left, other than Ben Shapiro, who is, that makes sense. Charlie Kirk was a big asset for Israel, keeping the young generation. And so the people that think that Israel took him out are thinking that Israel couldn't afford for Charlie Kirk, this huge influence in the young conservative movement. If he switched, it would have been really bad for the young generation, so they took him out. And like I said, it is getting heated for the people that think it was just Tyler Robinson. He got radicalized, kind of like the trans LGBTQ radicalization online when he went the other way politically, when he came out as being gay or realized he was gay and he was working alone. Or then the other one is that Israel, and he's a patsy. Israel did it and he's a patsy. As of last Sunday, my gut feeling from just sitting where I'm sitting, it feels to me like it was Tyler Robinson, and he decided after he went the other way politically that he just pulled it off. And I think the two things could happen at the same time. Like Charlie could have a falling out with his rich Zionist donors, and Tyler could do what he did also at the same time, and they might not be related. I mean, some people are going to really disagree with me, but that's what it feels like to me. It just feels like, oh yeah, there's another kind of interesting story right as it was leading up to the first tour date of the college debate events that Charlie does. So think about it. He has to prepare for these. You sit in front of college kid after college kid, and some college kids are pretty damn smart, and you don't want a video clip. Charlie doesn't want a video clip of himself getting owned or looking stupid. And apparently, I think it was Bill Ackman, a very rich Jewish donor. I think Charlie went over to his house in the weeks leading up to going on the debate tour. And he said that Charlie was, I don't know if it was Bill Ackman maybe, but it was somebody, one of the big donors, and they have done an interview. And he said Charlie was really focused and serious and a little bit had anxiety of how he was going to stand up to the questions about Israel. So he was telling the person, he goes, let's do like mock debates. You pretend you're me, Charlie. I'm going to be the devil's advocate and hit you with some of these questions about Israel that I'm going to get out there, and let's figure out how do I stay on the message that's going to satisfy my rich Zionist donors but also not get creamed in the debate. And so that Charlie had this attitude, like, we need to figure this out. So I think that's where we're at so far. Oh, yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about. So as of last Sunday, my gut feeling is that Tyler Robinson is not an Israeli patsy, and that he was having a falling out and a change of heart about Israel and a falling out with the donors. I think that seems like that definitely was happening. But I don't think they would have the time, one, to put it all together to get a patsy and everything, how quickly it happened since Charlie was having a change of heart. It seems way too quick. Two, Tyler Robinson's story, the whole thing to me kind of makes sense. There's not anything that pops up that I'm yet. But anyway, my gut feeling is that Tyler Robinson pulled this off on his own, and Charlie was having a falling out with his donors. But I will say they released the text messages between Tyler Robinson and his boyfriend since then, since like Sunday, and since I've had this gut feeling and everything. And the boiler has kicked on. And the text messages, I gotta say, I was going to read them, but it would take too long. Maybe I'll do an episode where we analyze the text messages. They seem real fake. It seems like bad dialogue in a bad movie where the characters aren't real people. You can tell whoever wrote the screenplay is just having the characters say exactly what they need to say for the story to move forward, but they don't seem like real people. It doesn't seem like something that anybody would text, let alone 22-year-olds. But hey, maybe they're old souls. But I don't know, to be honest with you. The texts do seem a little unbelievable. And then also, Bibi Netanyahu has come out with a few, like if you go to Bibi's Twitter, he's come out with a few statements. So this is a prime minister of another country that's up to their elbows in war, and he's making these statements specifically about Charlie Kirk's death, and they come off as a little, I don't know, desperate or something. So I'm interested for a lot more stuff to come out. I do still, right now, just my gut feeling, it just seems like Tyler Robinson got himself radicalized online and just decided that Charlie Kirk needed to die for his political opinion. Kind of a sad place to be as a country. I think we need to toughen up as a country. It's like, what are you going to crap your pants and kill somebody every time someone has the opposite political view than you? It's like, can we toughen up a little bit, people? It's all right if someone disagrees with you. It's all right if you think someone's political opinion is repugnant, dangerous. Everybody can have whatever political opinion they want as long as they do it peacefully, and you're just going to have to square with that. I also think that there's been a big thing going on about how anybody that's come out and celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, which I do think it's a terrible look and shows that the person has no class or decency. The people that have recorded themselves like dancing or celebrating, there's been a big campaign to contact their employers and get them fired. And I also don't think that you have to lose your job if you have a repugnant. I guess maybe there's some jobs that a level of professionalism is needed, but I don't even know what those are. I don't think someone should be canceled. I am very pro free speech. I think Charlie should have been able to have whatever political opinion he wanted, and there should be no physical repercussions. And for the people that have no class or decency that were recorded themselves celebrating it, I also think that they should be free to do that too. There's going to be social repercussions to doing that. To those people that are celebrating that, it's like, just do it alone in your house. Why would you record your face? That's a little bit psycho to say, I'm going to record my face celebrating someone's death and put it out. But a lot of people are losing their jobs for that. But it's just a hell of a situation. like I said, people passionately think that Israel took out Charlie Kirk, and people passionately think they don't, and it's getting ugly online. The two camps. Then the third one is that a Groyper did it, and that one never really had much evidence pointing to that one, or any, really. So that one has pretty much faded away and is gone and has been deemed kind of absurd. But the two that are left are Tyler Robinson grew up in a conservative family, learned how to shoot, came out as gay, got radicalized, and decided that Charlie Kirk should die and pulled it off, and he did it alone. And then the other one is Tyler Kirk is a patsy, and he was killed by Israel set up the assassination to quiet Charlie Kirk for having a change of heart and starting to criticize them. And that's the story so far. So let's continue to follow it. Wild stuff. Kind of a sad place to be in our country, but here we are. So I love you all. See you soon. Why? Stivin' why? Shamida.